My friend, maybe you've been staring at bills that don't make sense. Maybe your heart is heavy because you've done everything you know to do, yet your finances seem shattered beyond repair. You've prayed, you've worked, you've tried to stay strong, but somewhere deep inside, you're tired. You've been faithful, but the numbers don't add up. Hear me today. Jesus has not forgotten you. He is still the restorer of broken things, and that includes your finances. What's broken in your hands can be made whole in His. The enemy wants you to believe that your story ends in lack, but God says, I will restore the years the locusts have eaten. Your lost opportunities, your dried up resources, your sleepless nights, none of it is wasted. Jesus steps into the places where you've run out. When your bank account says empty, His word says overflow. When you've been rejected, He calls you chosen. When you've been overlooked, He reminds you that He is your shepherd, and you shall not want. Stop replaying your failures. Stop counting what's missing. Begin to declare what's coming. Say it out loud. My finances are not broken. They are being restored. Jesus can breathe life into dead dreams. He can turn a closed door into a divine opening. You may not see how, but restoration is already on the way. Every time you sow a seed of faith, every time you speak His promises, you're building a foundation for abundance. Hold your head high, not because of what's in your wallet, but because of who walks beside you. The same Jesus who fed the 5,000 is still multiplying today. He will restore your finances, your hope, and your peace completely. Sometimes life leaves us holding pieces we can't fit back together. The plans we thought were solid crumble in our hands, and the finances we worked for vanish faster than we can understand. The pressure, the disappointment, the uncertainty. It all makes us question if things will ever be stable again. You may look at your situation and think, it's too far gone. I've lost too much. I can't rebuild from this. But my friend, that's where Jesus steps in. He doesn't wait for perfection before He starts working. He doesn't ask for whole walls. He begins with broken stones. He's not intimidated by what's missing. He's drawn to it. When it feels too broken, Jesus begins to build. Not just your finances, but your faith, your confidence, and your trust in Him. You see, what's too broken for man is just right for the master builder. When everything collapses, we often assume God is absent, but in truth, He is most present when we are most desperate. He doesn't abandon you in your lack. He meets you there. Remember how He multiplied the loaves and fishes, not when there was plenty, but when there was barely enough to feed one boy. That's the pattern of divine restoration. Jesus doesn't need much to create more. All He asks for is what you do have, your faith, your obedience, your willingness to believe again. Maybe your finances have dried up and the numbers look impossible, but He can breathe life into empty accounts and broken opportunities. The moment you place the fragments into His hands, multiplication begins. Don't despise your small beginning. God is not finished. He's just laying the foundation beneath your brokenness. There's a deep beauty in the breaking. When something breaks, light can enter the cracks. Your financial struggle is not a sign that God has forsaken you. It's an invitation to witness His hand at work. Sometimes He allows the old structure to fall so He can rebuild something stronger, something that can carry the weight of His blessing. You see, if your finances were never shaken, you'd never know how faithful He is as a provider. Every trial is a tool, every loss a lesson. Maybe you once depended on your own strength, your own wisdom, or your own ability to make things happen. But when it all crumbled, you learned what it means to lean completely on Him. That's where divine rebuilding begins, not in your success, but in your surrender. When Jesus begins to rebuild, He doesn't just replace, He restores. Replacement gives you what you had. Restoration gives you more than you lost. Look at Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his family, his health, but the end of his story was double what he started with. That's what divine restoration looks like. The same God who restored Job can restore you. He can open new doors of income, give you fresh business ideas, and breathe life into forgotten dreams. You might think it's over, but heaven has already written a comeback story with your name on it. Don't measure God's ability by your current condition. You may feel like you're standing in ruins, but in God's eyes, those ruins are the raw materials of a miracle. Every builder starts with a plan, and Jesus is the master architect of your restoration. He doesn't rebuild in haste. He rebuilds with purpose. Maybe you've noticed things taking longer than you hoped, but trust His timing. He's not only restoring what's broken, He's reinforcing what's weak. He's teaching you stewardship, strengthening your faith, and preparing your heart to handle greater blessings. You see, if He rebuilt too quickly, you might return to old habits that caused the collapse. So He takes His time, not because He's delaying, but because He's designing something that will last. Every delay is construction in progress. Every prayer you pray is another brick being laid in the foundation of your new financial future. And as He builds, He invites you to build with Him. Don't just wait for blessings, speak them. Don't just dream of abundance, declare it. Every word of faith you speak is a tool in the building process. Say it out loud. My finances are not broken. They are being rebuilt by Jesus. When you speak faith into the ruins, heaven responds. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is working in your life right now, resurrecting what you thought was lost. Your financial story isn't over. The blueprint of your breakthrough is unfolding in His hands. It may look like brokenness now, but you're standing on the construction side of restoration. Jesus is building again, and this time it will stand stronger than ever before. Faith is not silent. True faith has a voice that speaks before the evidence appears, before the numbers rise, before the answer manifests. You see, it's easy to speak when the account is full, the business is thriving, and every bill is paid. But real faith speaks when nothing looks right, when the situation feels impossible, and when all you have left are promises from God. Faith is not denial of reality. It's a declaration of truth that is higher than reality. When you open your mouth and speak what God has said instead of what your eyes can see, heaven begins to move. The language of faith sounds foolish to the natural mind, but it is powerful in the spiritual realm. God responds to faith-filled words. The world says, I'll believe it when I see it. But faith says, I believe it, therefore I will see it. Every great miracle in Scripture began with someone speaking in faith before anything changed. When God looked into the darkness, He didn't describe it, He declared light. When Abraham had no child, God called him the father of many nations. When the widow faced her last meal, the prophet told her to bake bread for him first, and her oil never ran out. In every instance, the breakthrough began with words that agreed with heaven, not circumstances. Your finances may seem small now, but start speaking as if abundance has already arrived. Say, my cup runs over. I am walking in divine provision. Don't wait for the bank balance to change before you speak prosperity. Your words are the seeds that cause it to change. The moment your confession aligns with God's promises, the soil of your situation begins to shift. Faith is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about proclaiming that God is greater than what isn't fine. When you say, I am blessed, even when you feel broke, you are not lying. You are agreeing with what heaven already declared about you. The spiritual world doesn't move by feelings. It moves by faith-filled words. That's why Jesus said, you shall have whatever you say. The challenge is not whether God can bless you, it's whether you can keep speaking when nothing seems to work. Many people cancel their miracles by using their mouth against their faith. They pray in belief but complain in fear. They sow in hope but speak in doubt. Remember, your words are building blocks. Every word is either constructing your breakthrough or tearing it down. When you choose to speak faith before you see results, you activate the creative power of God. Faith-filled speech is like a key that unlocks invisible doors. The moment you begin to declare what you believe, even while surrounded by lack, you shift the spiritual atmosphere. Heaven recognizes your confidence and begins to move resources, people, and opportunities in your favor. Think of Joshua marching around the walls of Jericho. The walls didn't fall after the first shout, but he kept speaking and obeying until they did. The same is true for your finances. Every declaration you make in faith weakens the walls of limitation. Every time you say, God is my provider, the unseen begins to rearrange itself to make that truth visible. Faith doesn't wait for results, it speaks them into existence. There's power in persistence. Faith doesn't give up after one prayer or one declaration. It stands firm and keeps speaking even when time passes and nothing seems to happen. You see, words are spiritual forces. They don't vanish when spoken. They continue working until they produce results. Your confession of faith is like a seed underground. You can't see it growing, but something is happening beneath the surface. Keep watering it with your words. Keep saying, my needs are met. I am walking in overflow. God is restoring everything I lost. It may not look like much today, but your consistency in faith-filled speech is preparing a harvest that will soon appear. The key is to speak from conviction, not convenience. Faith speaks with authority. It doesn't beg, it commands according to God's word. It doesn't waver with emotions or react to circumstances. It stands on promises that cannot fail. When you speak with that kind of faith, you're not hoping for results. You're enforcing what already belongs to you in Christ. Speak life over your bank account, your business, your family, your future. Speak abundance over every area that looks bare. Heaven moves at the sound of faith. Don't let fear dictate your confession. The moment you open your mouth in faith, you invite divine power into your situation. So stand tall, open your mouth, and speak the unseen. Because faith doesn't wait to see before it speaks first, knowing that God will make it seen in His perfect time. There are moments in life when everything feels empty. Your hands, your heart, your bank account, your hope. You've tried to fix things, but every effort seems to slip through your fingers. You watch others succeed while you're still trying to survive. And deep inside you whisper, Lord, I have nothing left. But what if I told you that your emptiness is not your ending? It's your opportunity. God's greatest miracles often begin at the place of emptiness. He cannot fill what is already full. He looks for empty vessels, empty hearts, empty situations, because that's where His glory shines the brightest. When you've come to the end of yourself, that's when God begins. He doesn't need your perfection. He needs your surrender. Your empty doesn't scare Him. It invites Him. The less you have to offer, the more room there is for Him to pour out His abundance. Think of the widow in 2 Kings 4. She came to the prophet crying that her husband had died and creditors were coming to take her sons. She had nothing left but a little oil, yet that little became the key to her miracle. God didn't multiply the oil until she gathered empty vessels. The oil only flowed where there was emptiness. If she had stopped bringing jars, the oil would have stopped flowing. That's the principle of divine supply. It only moves where there is space. The same applies to your life. When you make room for God in your finances, your faith, and your expectations, He begins to pour. Don't be afraid of the emptiness. It's the very condition heaven looks for to release provision. When your hands are empty, you are finally ready to receive what He's been holding all along. Emptiness exposes our dependency. It strips away the illusion that we are our own providers. When you have nothing left to rely on but God, you discover that He was all you ever needed. Many times God allows us to come to the end of our strength so that we can experience His. He knows that if we never ran out, we would never reach up. Your lack is not punishment, it's preparation. He is preparing you to trust beyond what you see. Every bill, every empty shelf, every no from the world is a divine reminder that your source is not the system, it's the Savior. The same God who fed Elijah with ravens and multiplied bread in the desert has not changed. He still turns emptiness into overflow. But He waits until we release control, until we stop trying to fill ourselves with what can't satisfy and let Him pour in what never runs dry. Your empty season is sacred because it redefines what abundance really means. You start to value peace over possessions, presence over profit, faith over fear. God uses the empty seasons to purify your motives and refine your focus. He's not just filling your pockets, he's filling your heart with faith that no circumstance can shake. Sometimes he removes what you thought you needed so that he can replace it with what will truly sustain you. You may not understand it now, but your emptiness is positioning you for divine encounter. The woman at the well came empty, but she left overflowing. She came for water, but found the living water. That's how God works. He meets you in your emptiness to reveal his fullness. He doesn't condemn your lack. He transforms it into testimony. When your resources run out, that's when his resources rush in. Your insufficiency is not a barrier, it's an invitation. The disciples had 5 loaves and 2 fish, and it was nowhere near enough. But when they placed their not enough in the hands of Jesus, it became more than enough. The same hands that broke the bread also blessed it, and in that breaking came multiplication. Sometimes God will let what you have be broken so that he can multiply it. The little you have left is not useless. It's the seed of your next miracle. Don't despise the fragments. Don't mourn over what's missing. Place it in his hands, and he will show you that your empty basket can still feed a multitude. Heaven never sees lack. It sees opportunity for glory. Your empty place is not meant to be permanent. It's a doorway to overflow, but that doorway only opens to those who believe. If you focus only on what you've lost, you'll miss what God is about to pour. Shift your perspective. Instead of saying, I have nothing, start saying, God has everything I need. The shift from despair to declaration is where miracles are born. God is attracted to faith spoken in the middle of emptiness. When you speak life into what looks dead, you align yourself with his power, so don't curse the emptiness. Welcome it. It's the very stage where God performs his greatest works. Your empty is not a curse. It's a canvas for his creativity. When you give him your nothing, he gives you his everything. There's moments in life when it feels like everything you've prayed for is taking too long. You've been believing, waiting, trusting, yet nothing seems to change. You start to wonder, God, did you hear me? But what if I told you that restoration isn't waiting to begin, it's already in motion? Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. God's work often begins in the unseen long before it becomes visible. The roots grow before the fruit appears. Heaven has already released what you've been believing for. It's just unfolding in stages. You are not waiting for restoration. Restoration is waiting for you to recognize that it's already active. Even now, while you're reading this, God is aligning people's shifting circumstances and preparing doors to open. He's working behind the curtain of your current situation, turning every broken piece into a part of his masterpiece. The process of restoration is rarely dramatic. It's often gradual. We want overnight change, but God builds lasting miracles layer by layer. What looks like silence is strategy. What feels like delay is development. He's preparing the foundation before revealing the finished work. Just as a seed takes time to grow beneath the soil, your restoration is taking root where you can't see it. You may not feel progress, but heaven's timeline is never off schedule. Every prayer you've prayed, every tear you've cried, has set restoration in motion. God doesn't waste pain. He transforms it into power. You might think your finances, your dreams, or your faith are stuck, but they're actually being reconstructed in divine timing. The pieces that seemed scattered are being reordered by his unseen hand. Trust the process, because restoration is not waiting to begin, it's already underway. When you can't see results, it's easy to assume nothing is happening, but that's where faith steps in. Faith isn't just believing that God will act, it's knowing he is acting right now. Restoration begins the moment you choose to believe, not the moment you see evidence. Heaven doesn't move on sight, it moves on faith. Remember, Daniel, the angel told him his prayer was answered the very first day he prayed, even though it took 21 days for the answer to arrive. The delay wasn't denial, it was resistance in the unseen realm. The same applies to you. God released your restoration the moment you believed, but now it's moving through spiritual opposition, natural processes, and divine preparation. Don't let visible silence convince you of spiritual inactivity. Behind every not yet, there's an invisible already happening. Sometimes God allows the visible to look still so he can strengthen your spiritual vision. Restoration that happens too quickly can fade, but restoration that's built on faith lasts forever. You see, God's goal isn't just to fix what broke. It's to fortify you so it won't break again. He's not only restoring your finances, he's restoring your mindset about provision. He's teaching you how to walk in abundance without fear, how to steward blessing with wisdom, and how to depend on him even in overflow. That's why it may seem slow, because he's rebuilding both the promise and the person. Every test of patience is training for permanence. You might be standing in what feels like an unfinished story, but God is already writing the next chapter. The waiting room is not wasted time. It's preparation for your next level of blessing. Restoration is motion disguised as stillness. Even when life looks quiet, heaven is busy. God is talking to hearts you haven't met yet, arranging meetings you didn't plan, and creating opportunities you couldn't imagine. The restoration you're praying for may not come through the path you expect. It might come through divine surprises. Sometimes, what feels like loss is actually the first step of restoration. The pruning you resist is often the preparation for fruitfulness. You might not recognize it yet, but the answer is already traveling toward you. The business idea that will open doors, the favor that will cancel debts, the opportunity that will shift your life. It's all being positioned for the right moment. God's timing isn't slow. It's strategic. Every piece is falling into place, even if you can't see the full picture yet. If you could see what God is orchestrating behind the scenes, you'd stop worrying and start worshiping. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is the power working to restore you now. That means resurrection life is already flowing into every dead area. Your finances, your peace, your relationships, your purpose. The wind of restoration is blowing. You just can't see it yet. But soon, what's been happening in secret will show in the open. You realize that while you were waiting, God was working. You look back and see that every delay was direction, every struggle was set up, every silence was strategy. So lift your eyes from what looks still and fix them on what's already moving. Restoration isn't on its way, it's already here, already active, already aligning itself with God's perfect plan for your life. When you look back at everything we've shared, the brokenness, the waiting, the emptiness, the moments that seemed impossible, it all points to one truth. Jesus restores. He doesn't restore halfway, he restores completely. Your financial struggles, your seasons of lack, your silent prayers, none of it has been wasted. Every tear has been counted, every need has been seen, and every faith-filled word you've spoken has set restoration in motion. Even when you felt forgotten, heaven was already working on your behalf. What felt like loss was only the groundwork for increase. What looked like delay was divine preparation. Faith speaks before it sees, and your declaration today carries the power to unlock tomorrow's blessing. Don't let what's missing blind you to what's moving. The very areas that seem empty are the spaces where Jesus is building something greater. Your broken finances are not your identity. They're the canvas where God is painting his faithfulness. So hold your head high. Keep speaking life over your situation. Keep believing even when the numbers say otherwise. Restoration isn't coming, it's already happening. You are walking into a new season where what was lost will be returned multiplied and overflowing. You've been through the breaking, the waiting, the refining, and now you're stepping into rebuilding. Trust that every word of faith, every act of obedience, and every moment of surrender is shaping your miracle. Jesus specializes in turning emptiness into abundance and brokenness into blessing. You are not behind. You are being built. The same God who started the work is faithful to finish it, and your restoration story is already being written in His hands. Thank you for listening, for believing, and for standing in faith. May Jesus bless you, increase you, and cause His abundance to overflow in every area of your life. God bless you richly.